What is going on, everybody? Good evening. We are on the first one here of 2023 Scott Hogan Golf Show. Going to go over a couple things we saw this past weekend, helping you all to get better. So tonight's going to be a lot about helping you improve, things like that. So we're going to talk about Colin Morikawa. Did he choke? Did he lose it for other reasons? And what can you learn from it? And we'll keep going from there, all right? So let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome. We are here in 2023, first episode going on. So we are live here on YouTube. If you have questions, please feel free to comment and all of that. We will get to them. If you're new here, again, my name's Scott Hogan, PGA professional, and we are working on getting you better at golf. That's what we want to do. We want to show you how to use your technology to get better. We want to show you all of those things. So we will be at the PGA show. Before we get started with what we want to talk about tonight, which is what we saw at Kapalua, we'll be at the PGA show, leave there, that's, I guess, 2 weeks from this past Saturday. So we'll be heading out there, have some things set up with certain companies. If there are companies that you want to make sure that I am working with or going to check out, please let me know. You can comment them down. I already see some questions coming in. We will be meeting with FlightScope, have all that set up already, so we will have those questions for them. And we will be also meeting with TrackMan, Unicore, Foresight, all of them. So please let me know if you have questions about any of those. As I say before, we're not here to say promote one or the other, even though I use one particular brand. It's to help you get better and understand how to use your stuff better and get better. So that's what we want to do, okay? So I do see some questions about Skills app and stuff. I've not heard anything concrete on that yet, although I'm excited. Hopefully, usually around this time, they have some good updates and stuff. So with that said, I want to talk about tonight, I want to talk about as we turn the clock, right? And we turn the calendar over into a new year. We have people that have been getting better. They've been working on their stuff. They're getting better. They're using their technology. They're using their devices to improve. And they want to then start looking at getting better on the golf course. Now, we saw this past weekend. We had the Century Tournament of Champions. For me, this is when the season starts, if you ask me, as we're going through and looking at golf. I know there's a wraparound season, but, for me, it's still like once we have the Tour Championship and then like the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup, it's like I'm on to the next thing as we go. So, usually watching football for a while. So it was cool to see it, but there was a lot of good takeaways that you could take away from this past tournament. And there was one main one that I think everybody that's watched the tournament should know as they're going through. So if you didn't see the tournament, Colin Morikawa went into the final round. He was winning by I believe it was 6 shots, and at some point during the day, he was up by 7, and he ended up getting beat by Jon Rahm, who shot 10 under par, mind you, but Morikawa shot even par, I believe, which on that course is like 4 over par for the average. Like the average on that course is 69. It's a par 73. And that's not going to get it done, obviously. You're going to get lapped in that case, no matter how much you're leading by. And one of the big things that got him, and they were talking about, is he was working on his short game. He has a new short game coach, Parker McLaughlin, who is Short Game Chef on Instagram. You may have seen him. I'm going to be getting out there to work with him as well. I'm interested in it. This short game thing is near and dear to my heart. If you're new to here, I struggle with this from time to time. We also have he has a putting coach, right? He had a new putting coach, and he was actually strokes gain leader in putting throughout the week. That was part of how he got his lead. But what we saw was when he got under pressure, these things started to go away. So let's talk mainly about the short game, because that's where you really noticed it. And that's where I think you can see some of the big differences. So what was Colin Morikawa working on in his short game? Well, what Colin Morikawa works on, if you're looking at doing this, okay, you need to understand what he's doing with that short game, right? Short game is what Colin has is he has a weaker grip, and then he gets this lead wrist really bowed, okay, and they talked a lot about this in the broadcast. And because he's got a weaker grip, the face is still kind of open and squared, but when he's coming down, then he really bows that wrist going through, and that's how part of why he hits the ball so good and he has such good contact going through. Now, in short game, that is a problem though, because what ends up happening is you're going to get a lot of shaft lean on it, okay? That club's going to lean forward, and when the club leans forward, we start talking about golf clubs, you've got on your wedges, this front part of your wedge, this is the leading edge, okay? The back part of your wedge, and it's essentially, how much below the surface of the leading edge is. You got this mass here. This is called the bounce. So it's essentially just think of the back part of the wedge as bounce. Well, when you're chipping in short game, you want to use bounce. Bounce does exactly what it implies, right? It makes the club bounce through the turf, okay? It makes the club bounce. If you use the leading edge, edge implies sharp, okay? Edge implies sharp, so that edge is going to dig. That's what we saw Morikawa doing, okay? We saw him do it on 15. We saw him do it on 18 in the third round. We saw him actually do this back at the Hero World Challenge where he was struggling and couldn't get up and down. The thing is, when you're playing on Bermuda grass, which like the Hero World Challenge is down in, actually, is that Bermuda? I think it's in Bermuda, but or the Bahamas, whatever those are. But I think it's Bahamas. But you also in Hawaii, that's extremely grainy. If you're in Florida, extremely grainy. So what happens is if you catch that grass at all, it's really going to catch. And so that's why you saw guys, they would take big divots and stuff, and kind of easy to do if you're not sure what you need to do. So Colin is kind of in this spot where he needs to get that club face opening up more on the way back. So that's something that's a little bit challenging for him at the moment, okay? So, what I would have him do, and what you can see Parker working on him doing, is when he's going back, he needs to actually get this wrist to cup. It's called some dorsiflexion is what they actually call it. So you might hear it called extension too, but dorsiflexion is the correct term for it. And then what that's going to let him do is get the face open, so when he comes in, he can actually just turn his body and the bounce will stay moving. You heard Paul Azinger on Saturday night talk about this, about, hey, he's got to be able to like hold a glass or whatever he was saying on the back of his wrist. That's what he was saying for his analogy. So he needs to be able to do this. This is also where you'll see Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm's kind of similar in how he works that golf club, right? More bowed wrist type player. So you'll see him actually, what Rahm does is hits chips one-handed like that, because when you do that with your lead hand, it makes you essentially have to get your wrist to cup a little bit more and have to use some bounce as you go through. Now, I've gone through this. I had kind of a similar issue. My short game struggled because of it. And so what ends up happening a lot of times is you run into some issues where you know what you need to do, right? The first step is you know what you need to have happen. But then the next step is you got to be able to do it in practice. You need to be able to do it in your practice rounds. You then need to be able to do it in competition, and then you need to be able to do it at the highest level of your competition, right? And so this is where people don't realize when they're going through this stuff is, I get this all the time. People will hit balls on the range, and this isn't just specific to short game. This is any part of your game. People will hit balls, and they'll be like, oh, I got it. And then they go out to play, and that's like their goal. Like, hey, I want to play good with my buddies. And they lose it, and it's like they completely lose it. Well, it's not that, hey, you're doing it wrong or any of that. What happens is you're mentally just not there yet. You know, you don't trust it enough yet. You got to keep going. You got to try it in pressure to see what happens and go from there. So I think what you saw was Colin kind of go back. You know, he was fighting. You know, hey, when the pressure's on, you go to what you know best. Even if it's wrong, you go to what you've done forever. You go to wherever feels comfortable. Your brain doesn't know, hey, that's wrong or right. It says, I like that. That's the easiest one for me to do. And this is when you get like your emotions up and you're nervous, and he's got to work on it. So, you know, again, Colin's going to be fine. He's going to work more on it. Again, it's going to be more cupped, trying to move it through. If he doesn't do it, you're going to blade him a little bit like that one. So when he gets to it, if he does it right, what he'll start to learn is he can actually hit the ground, and that club isn't going to dig, right? And that's where I see people chunking and blading is, hey, I don't feel like I can hit the ground because I'm going to chunk it like he did. Now, the other thing he could do is put the ball way back, kind of play him like he does and hit like low ones. That's not going to be the best, I think, for him in the long run, right? That's not going to be the best solution. I think he's going to be better off trying to work on it. He's doing the right thing and working on it. And I think he's going to be smart enough to know that, hey, I know how to work this through. I know what the process is. He's got smart people around him that are going to tell him, like, hey, you need to be able to get through that, right? Your first real chance to test this under Sunday pressure, and it didn't quite work yet. Wasn't 100% there. We're on the right track because you did it for 3 rounds. And then you got to go. Same thing happens when I teach people, hey, you're trying something new. You're trying to shallow the club. You're trying to, whatever you're trying to do. You're trying to do all that stuff. That's great. But we need to get you to just get a feeling for it. Keep working on it. You got to make it stronger in your head. And that's what's going to get you there. So how can we do that in practice? What's some of the things that we can do? Well, one is you got to practice with a little bit of pressure, right? So I've got to look at it and say, all right, hey, I've got to not only in practice be able to hit shots, but I got to hit the correct number of shots, you know, where I want them to go. So if we're looking at it here and I've got a shot here, just kind of a little basic one, kind of one you saw a lot when we were watching the tournament. A little bit of a false front, fairway lie, and we're basically just going to try to pitch it up there as we go. And let's say, you know, I hit the shot, and we've got our little gimme circle there. We're going to say, all right, hey, I've got to hit a series of, let's call it 10 shots, okay? 10 shots. I cannot move on until, let's call it from this distance, I've got to get 5. I'm going to start it with 5, okay? So again, we get ourselves set, hit it. That was a good example of using the bounce right there. Even though you hit the ground, the club bounces on through. And I would keep on going through, and I've got a goal. I've got my goal. Hey, I've got to get there, and I've got to see what I can do. That's what you're essentially going to look at, okay? And work your way through building some pressure. Again, I didn't hit that one hard enough, but not bad using the bounce there. Again, for me, I feel Colin's pain on this one. This is a very sore subject for me as well. So this is where, when you're practicing, again, no matter what you're practicing, you want to use what you have available to set some challenges and up a little bit of the ante. Once you can do it just kind of in normal mode, so if we took this into launch monitor mode, right, what I would tell people is, hey, in FS Golf, for example, you can hit shots and you can kind of get the numbers you want and hit them. Then you need to move it over to FS Skills and say, all right, I got to complete some skills challenges to whatever level you want and be able to complete those to the satisfactory level, right? From there, then I would take it to a course setting. Now, you can do that in here. Ideally, if you're going to be trying to do this outside, you'd be taking it outside. But you could do it on the simulator in here and see how you do it. You would just add the extra step that you have to take it to the course outside. And then if you're going even further, take it to whatever stage you're going at. You know, hey, I'm going to play my Sunday round with my buddies. I want to perform good. For me, it's tournaments. Hey, I got to perform good. Those are the things that we want to do. And we know all this because we have certain technologies available to us, right? And we actually are able to study this stuff. So this would be an example. This actually was introduced to me by Colin's coach. This is called the Focus Calm. So I used to use one called Focus Band. Mine's old. This one's cheaper, and I actually like it better. It's easier to use. But it just goes with an app. There's one little change they are going to make for it where it's going to have some auditory feedback. So if you're just on your own, you can you can play and have a round with it. But once you get it set up, you're going to see I've got some lights on here, and you're going to see right now it's in yellow, but it'll go between red, yellow, and blue. Red being, hey, I'm actively thinking, right? I'm thinking about what I got to do. This is how I want to hit it. Neutral, you're kind of in the neutral spot. And then the blue would be, hey, you are relaxed, right? So you can see as I go through this, I'm just going to set it down here. So again, this is where it'll be nice to have some feedback so I don't have to use the phone. But like if I'm a beginning player, and again, I'm working on stuff, I'm going to be thinking about it. All right, hey, I've got to get this moving. I've got to go here. Let's go to this. Wrist goes like this. Body pivots. All of this happens. You can see as far as I'm staying in the yellow because I'm pretty calm about it, but I'm not even sniffing getting to a relaxed state where like, all right, I'm going to be able to perform this under pressure. Imagine when your emotions and stuff get going, how that would work. So again, the way you keep battling that is you have to keep practicing it and understand that that is a step in the process as we go. And then all of a sudden, we can start performing it a little bit better as we go through. So, these are tools that are available that, I think they're great to get. I use this more than just golf. I use it for other aspects of life. But the big thing is understanding the process. That's what we've learned is how is this supposed to go? I used to be a golfer back in the day as well, where it's like, all right, man, I should be able to do up. How about now? Maybe I hear y'all. Now I know. There we go. Not sure what happened. But anyway, we're going to wrap this up anyway. But biggest thing I was just saying there was check that spin rate as you're going through that, okay? So, checking your spin rate. You saw when I had the ball back, it was like a 4,000 spin versus now we've got 7,300. So just another little bonus that you have in there. So, again, just training things, working on things in a manner. Again, the whole point of this is I see so many people that are like looking at it and saying, hey, this is going to be, Colin is collapsed, all that stuff. I'm trying to read through some of your comments. Colin's collapsed, all that stuff. I don't think so. It's just normal. All right, I don't know what's going on with sound, but I'll answer some questions again. Again, speed. I saw something about PGA. Best thing to do to get started, sign up for a PAT. Make sure you have the skill level to pass the PAT if you want to get in the PGA. That was one of the first things I had to do. And spin, just all of your ball speed, smash factor at 1, okay? So if you have questions, leave comments below. We're going to have more videos. Got some cool ones coming up this week, so make sure you don't miss out on that. Thanks to everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Feel alive, let's hit the dance floor. Don't work too hard, might break a backbone. Return of the Mac, the king is back though. Corvette and cash, I never lack those. She saw the stone, you know how that go. Fatality, my diamonds that cold. Versace trunks, I hit my backstroke. Knock on the door, she at the back row. All I really take is a little taste. Island girl, blue eyes with a little bass. Here for the thrill, I don't need a chaser. Wanna vibe at the getaway. Shimmy, shimmy, yeah, I got the semi-4 weight. Don't step out the line like this a probate. You hit the line and try to locate. This for the time, got time for no day. One, too many, I'm going. Too crazy and I got bad ones and they ready. A good time, so now it's into it, we left that. Can't remember anything, but I know we got lit.